You guys will get the.
Okay. Okay. So, hi, you guys. I dragged you guys on the phone call today to talk to me, mostly because you guys are truly proven leaders in your respective industries. Don't be shy. Don't be shy to brag, because I'm extremely proud of both of you. I've seen the progress and I've seen the ups and downs of it all. And I couldn't be more happy for either of you with the amount of growth. MJ continues to grow, and we have other locations in the works. Allie, randomly, we just knew that she grew by 160% in the past year. Yay. So, I mean, the whole nature of the call is because you guys have both known me for a very long time. I tried not to micromanage, although it's very, very difficult. I know that I'm more of like, I don't know, I send a million text messages, and I'm not shy to triple, quadruple text you all. So it's culminated to be this really great situation for everybody. I mean, I wanted to be able to provide some type of information for people that are just starting off. I mean, like, what if we had somebody to just tell us this, whatever little information, like, hey, just so you know, do this and, do that. And, whatever it is that you could pass along for the next generation of people to come through and graduate with their license and think that they're going to do the same thing that you both did. The beauty of it all is that we all jumped into this as a way to kind of really be in charge of our own livelihoods and our own lives, right? And it's like, okay, now what? You guys are both kind of moving on to the next level. You're not starting or looking, for information on how to get this all going. I think you guys kind of mastered that part of it. I can't tell anybody how to grow their business or get clients or market themselves. Okay, that's something that you guys probably would have to do your own separate masterclass on. But what I can touch on is maybe crunching some of the numbers and going over some of the questions that maybe are a little unclear to either one of you. But before we go ahead and do all of that and throw some hypotheticals out there, I'm gonna let you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves and tell me about your business. Allie, you wanna start first?
Hello, my name is Allie Tureaud. I've been doing hair for 11 years now. I met Marie 8 years ago, which sounds so crazy. And by dumb luck, she was actually a client at one of my first salons that I started working at. And I moved to Los Angeles to start my hair career here. And so did Marie. She ended up moving within the same year. So it was like having a little slice of home while like growing and not knowing which way was up, which I was forever grateful. She became a client in my chair. Got to the point where we both got so busy, the pandemic hit and everything, but we've always stayed in contact. And Marie has been the best accountant, tax lady, mom, you name it, that I could have ever asked for. And it's been just really helpful to always have her, like she said, texting us and being able to always be like on call or available for any like business move. I think that when I started off in this career, I just wanted to be like, oh, I just want to like boop to my own drum, kind of make my own rules. Now, fast forward to now, I'm like, I'm the boss here. I have rules. I have to follow them. I have to do all these things. So within that, Marie has definitely helped me get a structure to like hone in on my numbers and be able to build my business and scaling it past 6 figures, which has been really exciting. And being able to have a salon on Rodeo Drive and having rental girls, and this is just the beginning. So I'm like, that's just to name a few things, but anything that she helps with or adds her magic to, I definitely believe that she adds that glitter and that extra oomph to taking things to the next level.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
And you're on.
Well, that's, I mean, I don't know how much more I could add on to what Ali just shared. If the sentiment ditto was enough, then I would just say that. But I've known Marie since before I opened up my own business. I've been in this industry. I started about 15 years ago after being in mortgages and banking and insurance and a college degree. And one would think that having all of that in my arsenal would be enough for me to be a successful business owner and entrepreneur. The reality is I'm a good at building stuff, but when it comes to numbers, I'm horrible. And I think that speaks to most business owners that
ditto.
If you let us create, we'll create something amazing, and we know how to build on those foundations. But when it comes to tracking our numbers and how profitable are we really, a lot of it is just we're just flying by what we think we have in the bank or how we think we're doing in terms of like cash flow. So Maria has been huge to me. I mean, I met her before all of this, and she's seen my growth and what my original plans were for growth as a business owner and as a dad. And she's seen me sort of stick to at least those same principles over the years. So she knows what I've been trying to build and what I continue to try to build and the purpose behind everything. So yeah, Maria has been instrumental in just helping this little engine plug along. And she's like the coal that I'll throw into just to keep the engine running. And I don't know that I could be where I am today with success I hate using the word success in myself, but like there is growth and there is expansion and all that's possible just by Marie helping to show me that I'm on the right path. So.
Thank you. I'm about to cry, but I'm holding it in. I will say this, and this is probably the biggest thing, is I think nowadays people are coming to me and they think that I'm gonna all of a sudden have the answers to transform their business. For me, it is a very calculated numbers game that we can play. And I'll say, do we push it? Do we not? Do we this? Do we that? But it all kind of has to make sense first before we present it. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me fill in the holes to make sure that this is the way that we want it to look. Because the thing about accounting and this finance is we don't get to sit there and say, okay, wait a minute, Mr. Banker, can I just explain it to you? I know that we don't have the papers, but let me just explain to you how I do. Like, we don't get a chance to do that. We don't get a chance to represent ourselves. Basically, these papers and these documents and this infrastructure, the business management side of it, is the part that a lot of businesses often lack. If your numbers are good, but we're not able to present them, or I can't kind of assemble them in a way that makes sense to be able to obtain credit, or even if you said, you know what, I don't need credit. I actually I'm going to be going into business with a business partner. You may open another location and say, okay, all these are my locations, but now I'm going to get a business partner and we're going to open a few more. So whatever that looks like to you guys, unless we can present that and properly present it, that means you could pay the tax on the wrong amount. It means, we're not really planning. We're more so operating on defense, right? Like if we're not really reviewing it to implement change during the year or the following year, then I'm just kind of balancing a checkbook to make it all tie based on what you said. So the difference of the business management is when we're able to assemble it, and I've done a cost analysis on this, any way you flip it, you will end up paying that all at once if you need me to now all of a sudden get your life in order. Because usually the only time when people find urgency is they either owe tax, they're behind on their tax, or everything's a mess and they just ignored it for so long and kind of just said, well, I'm just going to continue to make payments because I'll owe them for life, which is what a lot of people do, right? But my whole thing is, it's like, how can we better plan for that? Because if we owe a piece of the pie, obviously we always want to reduce our tax liability. Isn't that the name of the game? But when you hear people say, well, oh, all these corporations, the reason why corporations are able to claim as much, you guys, is because when we have a corporation, meaning like not just a sole prop, but a corporation, on a corporation, you have to report the balance sheet on your tax returns. So do nonprofits. Like all corporations have to provide that. And when you do that, that is basically what we're now saying. If there's if it's just you, and in both of your cases it is, so when it's just you, we have a little bit more wiggle room in terms of, well, I know that whatever we don't catch or don't claim, or it's on your personal somewhere, that kind of, it's still going to fall in the same pocket at the end of the day, right? I'm just juggling the two buckets. However, when you start to get business partners, or when there starts to be things that we now have to show, it's very difficult to lie on where it's a matter of placing these numbers where they go. So when I say that, and I don't want to lose you here, I'm thinking in terms of like larger assets, like how do we claim it? It might not make sense to claim something that's large. Like my threshold for business, like at least unless we're hitting in the millions, but usually for anything under $1 million, I would say $1,500 is going to be my threshold for an asset, meaning any single purchase item that you've spent $1,500 or more, even including leasehold improvements. Like let's say you went in and did walls or whatever you needed to do to prep this space. Like we may want to claim that, like we're going to add it all up. And then maybe the larger ones, we may want to amortize that, because the thing about taking these I hate the word deduction, guys, right? And I hate the word write-off, because it's really whatever. So how we get these write-offs is sometimes not beneficial to claim it all at once, but in piecemeal. And the reason why I say piecemeal, and that's what amortization and depreciation is, which I know is another topic, don't freak out, but it's because instead of us claiming like, oh, we paid $5,000 for this chair or this furniture, so we paid $5,000 for it. I'm not going to make you take the 5,000 on this next one, but what about if we can say, okay, that's going to be around for 5 years, and we now can take it 1,000 per year, because we're going to maximize it, unless you claim it at once. And then you know what I mean? Like that's really the lifespan of that item. It makes sense to depreciate it and to amortize it and to do all of these things. And we cannot do that unless we have a financial statement. When I look at a financial statement, the first thing I'm looking is, how many bank accounts am I dealing with when I'm dealing with this person? Is it one? Is it two? Is it a personal Venmo? Because I'm only seeing business accounts, and you'll hear me, I harp on this all the time. If you are not having a separate bank account or a separate credit card, then make me a shoebox and throw everything in there, and we'll just talk about it at the end of the year. Throw it all in the shoebox.
Shoe boxes I have.
Well, because I would rather like see it and go, I can't use it, than to go, damn it, are you do you have it? The reason why I want the ducks in a row, because should anything be opened up, I want to be able to just, like, I didn't just pull these out somewhere. Like if we have documentation, if you went on Craigslist, okay, then pull, like whatever it is that you can pull for that, then I say write it. If you aren't sure, put it on a Post-it and say, ask Marie about blah, blah, blah. I bought this at Craigslist. Don't know if it could be claimed. Put the date, the amount, throw it in the shoebox. Like I said, when I start to assemble all that, I'm putting pieces together. Like, okay, that's nothing. I can't use it. I don't know if I can use things, guys, until we actually get into the numbers. That's like me telling you, you can only claim 17% of what? 17%. You need the other number. So until I know where the numbers are, I don't know what your maximum is. Like, are we over on this? So what I start to do is, like I told you, and MJ, you'll probably know this, like whenever we have like a personal or unrelated expense, it doesn't mean you're not going to claim it. It means, let me move it to another bucket. I have a way to do that. So we put it over there. And it means, like, let me look at the real numbers. And then anything that I think needs to be placed and we can put back, we talk about it and we make sure it makes sense. Because, you know, like, do I think that your business can afford the postage to mail your kid a package once a month? Yes, I do. But again, I know that it's personal, and let's look at the real numbers. I'm going to move it aside first. Yeah, I'm going to take it at the end, but let's talk about the real numbers, because when I'm looking at break even, I'm thinking break even like this. When you tell me, like, and I'm going to let you guys tell me, let's just say you start out and you have, it's just you. No other people are working with you. And I mean, I don't know how many people you could do in a day, but let's just say, I don't know what a good rent would be, but I would say, let's just say your rent is $2,000 a month. Okay, so I'm gonna put it down at $2,000 a month. I don't know if there's any other things like software that you might use, dues and subscriptions, things like that that you might use in your business, whatever those might be. I'm looking for that. If I see that you're getting merchant, like if you're getting paid through Square or some of these other Payscape or PayPal or any of those things, once I see that you're processing payments, then that tells me, okay, I know that there's got to be merchant processing fees. And if you guys look at your Square and Squire or whatever, all these different ones that they have now, if you look, the same way that they don't tell these Uber and Lyft drivers, oh yeah, this is what you made. However, this isn't what we put into your bank. They don't say that. That's up to you to know, guys.
Yeah.
Figure it out. So they're like, you know what I'm saying? Like they don't put that technically. I think that they should, because Uber and Lyft is probably the worst. They don't know. I'm like, no, go look it up. You got to look in your paperwork, because there's a device fee, there's a use fee, there's a transportation. They have all these different fees, but if you miss it, I mean, they're not claiming that they got it from you. You have to know to put that in. So
in this day and age, there's so many different options, whether to do the like pay to tap or the like actually, you know, like the card into the card reader or the dip or the tap, blah, blah, blah. They're all different percentages. Or if you have to manually input it, you get freaking robbed.
Yes, exactly. So that. So like if you have Chase and you want to do the merchant processing like manually, and then also it's different if they enter it versus you, or like there's so many different things. Or if you guys have the machine and you put it on your phone, you can swipe it, and that's cheaper than manually entering. Okay, there's all these reasons why that's so, but those are the things I'm looking at. And so one, we have the income from services. Then two, at some point, do we have income? Now the income from any other people, it's going to matter. How are you, what is your agreement with this person, and is it in writing? So your agreement with that person, are they going to pay you XYZ amount of dollars for every week? Is it per day? Is it based on their services? And again, those are all things to consider, because to me, if you two have put in the sweat, the blood, sweat, and tears to market your business, regardless of, I'm sure that you guys can place the right people in there, but they're gonna get work just strictly by being in a place that has that type of, like, you guys have a lot of people already. So I'm saying, like, whatever that, I feel that there should be a price on that. Like, even though I know that, you know, you guys want to help others, and I'm for that, but I'm saying it needs to make sense. So like, based on the square footage that you're paying for that space, is that the same that you're charging? And is there, you know what I mean? Like, what does that look like? So I like to look at what that is. If I know that your rent is $2,000 a month, and let's just say, I don't know, what's a good square footage? Would you say like 500 or 600 square feet? Is that a good small? Is that small?
Range.
Huh?
That's like a good
600?
600, yeah.
Okay, so let's just say 600. So I'm gonna just break it out. So the price per square foot for that, hold on, it's 600 square feet divided by 2,000 is $3. Wait, let me see. $3 per square foot times 600. A little short. It's a little over that. So basically, I'm looking at the price per square foot. So I'm going to go somewhere with this. So let's just say now we have 2,000 for the rent. Let's just say I'm not going to do the merchant processing fees, because that's going to be based on revenue, but let's just say 2,000 a month for rent. I would say, I mean, I don't know how much products might be, but overall, what I'm looking for is to get the price per day. So after we know what it takes to keep your business afloat for 1 month, I'm going to divide that. So then that way we know, like, per day, regardless of whether it's the weekend or not, this is how much our business needs to make to keep our doors open. That's not for us to see some big major profit. That's just our break even. Break even is the cost to stay alive. So once we have that, we're like, okay, now what are all the ways that we can now increase our revenue? We can add more people, we can sell things, we can get bigger space. And obviously that's going to be contingent upon what that rates are going to be, right? So even though you're getting bigger space, if your price per square foot isn't, you know what I mean? Like we want to play with these things.
Definitely the most valuable thing that you ever showed me or like brought to my business. I always like preach that this was the best formula that you shared.
Really?
Because it wasn't until I realized how much money that it took to cost per day. And in that time frame when I had that epiphany, I definitely changed my prices to accommodate that and reflect it, because there was certain times, by the time, like you said, you pay for processing, you pay for this, there's certain days that we're just breaking even. So why work 6 days behind the chair trying to do that when you can condense it into a shorter amount of time, do that, and then hire out to, like what you're saying, is adding more girls or adding other people to work for you, merchandise, and doing other stuff outside of the box.
But even more so over, if you want to even get more technical in your line of work, there's like, and this is probably really nitpicky, but I'm gonna share it with you both, in a sense, for like, let's just say, like, as far as products, like you go in and you buy these products and they're just general shop supplies, like we're going to use this, regardless, like how are you incorporating those different expenses, like the cost for your admin, if you have that, the cost for your scheduling, the cost for your dues and subscriptions, whatever softwares, like the cost for your QuickBooks, the cost for anything that you have going, like all of it when it's all rolled in. Because to me, all of that is necessary, and you guys are growing. So these things, like things that you might not have been as concerned with before, as far as like accounting, I don't think that accounting expense needs to be ridiculous or really high. I would say for the most part, I mean, Yanni would probably be a better, judge on this one. But if I were to say, like, your size business, you're not spending, hundreds and hundreds of thousands per month. Now that can add up if we don't do any of it. And then you now say, okay, here's everything for my, for taxes. So then it's like a matter of sorting on that. And sometimes to do all of that and then do the return. So you just kind of got to average it out. Like, does it make sense for me to pay it per month? And I don't know the answer to that. Some people say, like, I don't want to be concerned with it until the end of the year. But my whole thing is, you guys are both growing and growing fast. And it's so important, especially when you're getting into these bigger commitments, that like, we know what it takes to truly be fully functional and where you're making your money. So when we start getting different locations, I want to be able to tell you, Allie, you're making this off of this girl. You're making this off of your behind the chair. You're making this from whatever your master classes. MJ, you got this for products. Like, these are all different streams of income. And I guess the best way to continue to grow is to add more things that we're earning revenue from, that doesn't require us for a time commitment.
Yeah.
And that's where
interject that what Allie was saying about like the cost per operating per day, right? Based on your like, you and I, Marie, haven't gotten into that far, but it's something I've always sort of considered breaking down, and not just like what it needs to operate or to break even or to profit per day, but also on the price of services. Right now, when I charge, I just go on supply and demand, and I push the envelope on, like, I'm just going to keep pushing until there's no market tolerance for it, right? Not just for myself, but barbers. But while I know how much each chair that I have in my shops can potentially earn, I don't know still like how far off I am from them maximizing that, right? Like I know I have 8 chairs, but like right now there's only in one location I have 8 chairs, which is only 5 kind of active, right? And that's not 5 chairs busy 7 days a week. That's 5 chairs busy half days a week. So yeah, that's something as a business owner too going in that I'd like to break down how much does my individual day need to be for this location to operate. How much do I need to get out of each chair per service? And am I charging properly for that service? You know, if that makes sense.
It does. And that is a great way to look at it. I do have yours because I was looking at yours when I worked on your thing. So I do have a lot of like the notes. I'll share them with you and then we can kind of talk about that separately. But yes, most definitely you want to think of that. And in terms of like, how are you allocating once we have financials to look at over a period of time, and that's one that we can do. I can either do it on a shared screen call with you or just make you a recap video so you can look at it and follow along with the reports that I share. That's kind of how I've been doing it now. But then we can have a talk after that, because obviously you're going to want to look at it and kind of take it all in. But allocating portions for your overhead, like once we know what it all is, it's like you have, when we talk about in terms of cost of sales, and I think that's also one that people screw up, cost of sales to me is cost directly correlating to us earning that income, which isn't always, it's not always a true cost. But there's also the fact that once we have a full calendar year and we look at, okay, here's all of your expenses. Now, if we were to just average it, and we know that it doesn't always break out exactly even per month, but if we were to just break that out, like let's say, here's your profit, here's what it breaks down for the like per month, if we were to really break it down, give or take. And then from there, we're kind of now narrowing it down. So like, if this is what we made, we can kind of calculate what do we need to do to double it, to triple it. And then once we have the template for one and it's good and you have a full understanding, you know what it takes to manage it and all of that, it's very, very easy to replicate it as many times as we need to, and kind of putting the right people in.
Also, where like your brain is so numbers and so like XYZ, and then
I can't turn it off.
And then for us, it's like we're such creatives that went completely over my head. That
okay,
like,
good. I want to know that.
I keep preaching that was the most valuable formula, because for me, how you're saying like, oh, to look at it as a monthly and then look at it as a year, I can't even get past the next day. So I need to only be focused on what like the day brings for me. So once I was able to like bite that down into like a little nugget sized bite, I was able to then scale it, because then I understood finally what a month looked like. So I think that, like you asked in the beginning, what is something that you wish your younger self, or like in the beginning of your business, like knew? I kind of wish before I even started this, before I came up with numbers, before I came up with my pricing, that what it would look like for my month and day and go from there, because I don't think I would have been able to scale much faster if I knew those numbers versus just pooting along and being like, all right, like eventually I'll get there. And it didn't have to be an eventually. It could be just this because, and this is what reflects it and makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, because and to measure everything against versus just me. I'm the same as you, is that I think, okay, I know that I think big numbers. I never break it down into like that small. I say, I know I can get this much out of this chair if I get it busy 7 days a week and this much. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is where I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to get to 7 days a week, all locations, all open. I want to get to that max number without realizing, okay, but if I break it down to per day or per hour, whatever, that it doesn't have to be always constantly thinking, how am I going to get this chair filled? Like, I need to get this chair filled. I got to get it booked. So,
well, and it also gives you a view of, if I don't fill this chair, okay? Because I know we all like to think, oh, it's like this on anything. Like, okay, guys, we're going to do a trip. Everybody's in. You guys are in. Okay, great. We're all in. We're in. Everybody's locked in. We're good. So then we start planning. And then I'm like, wait, so now it's time to pay. So then you're like, wait a minute, wait, I didn't, well, I might not be able to, you know what I mean? Like, it's never what we think or what we plan. So I like to look at it in this way. And I do think it's when we're able to flip it, and I can show you the way I look at it, which I know it's not probably the same way that you all look at it, but it gives me something tangible that I can now show you. Because I'll tell you, a lot of people go, are you sure that's right? Surely I don't think I ate out. Like, can we look at that? Like, I show it to you. I'll open everything that you want to see. Yeah, I don't lump sum anything. And I don't know if you've ever looked at your books, MJ, but if you look, we don't lump. I do not let the girls hide. Like, if you're off by a penny, don't throw it somewhere. I want you to put it, because the penny comes back up elsewhere. It's going to be off. That's just how it works. Accounting is very like checks and balances. So when I look at things in terms of how can we do this and how can we make it bigger, when I can look at that, I can clearly say, I don't think that you're charging like a high enough markup. Like, you should know what your cost is, because once you know what your cost truly is, then we'll know we can mark it up and say, okay, our markup is 20%. Let's see how that does. Okay, we can go up. Let's go to 30%, like whatever that looks like. But until we know what that is, it's kind of hard to then play with it. Like, we need to know some pieces of the puzzle, and then take it another step further is like, how can we plan? You guys, especially for the size of your business, could opt to pay yourself through payroll. That doesn't mean you have to have employees. There's ways that we can do that. I have payroll service providers. If you wanted to even take out payroll tax, we could do that. Like, you know, but again, I would never say, let's do that until I can now like say, these are the numbers. And I think we're in a place to do that. Like, or these are the numbers. Like, I wouldn't want to advise you on certain things if I didn't know the full scope. Like, you know, when is it okay that we can bring it on another person? Like, not another person that's going to now be revenue, but maybe to take some of the weight off of my plate. Like, a lot of times people think they need me. You don't always need me. I'm a very process type person. And if I can teach somebody the process, which a lot of times everybody that I've mentored is now, they stay with the company. I want them to come to stay with me, but a lot of times they end up going. So I'm always in the same boat, like trying to figure it out. And there's no lack of work. So it only seemed fitting for me to go, okay, well, the smaller businesses that usually really would need me, what is their apprehension of working with me in the beginning? I'll tell you, it's cash flow. Not everybody has cash flow in the very, very beginning. Like, I can't afford to do that. I'll tell you when I can afford to do it, right?
I have to interrupt on this, because I also feel like, as me, just being me and running my business by myself, I thought that you had to be a big business with a big employees and all this stuff. And so it's like, you know, obviously we're talking about 8 years worth of time and growth, but in the beginning it was just me, that I was only worried about me, and who really cared, because all I did was affect me. And then each time I grew a little bit more, and then now here I am where I'm like, oh, this isn't just about me anymore. And that's where you came in to be able to help this situation, because I can't do it by myself alone. And it, like, if you told me 8 years ago, I'd be like, oh, I could probably like TurboTax this, put it in, like you said, a shoebox, like do it in a little diary. I'm at the point where I've grown so much that this is where I would tell somebody else, like, you don't have to do it alone, and hand it over, or have a call with somebody like you that has the knowledge to be able, like you said, to process it and teach somebody, or be able to, like, you know, run it type of a thing. So
and you don't, and when
I would throw everything in the shoebox, and I learned this through her. Marie was saying, like, you know, get to a point where your time is more valuable. And what I was doing was throw everything in the shoebox. Then come tax season, I would sort all the receipts by month, right? And then I would go into my QuickBooks and try to type that all in, and then send her a report, which probably didn't make any sense. And, you know, I dread doing that every year, because I'm like, oh, this is going to take so much of my time, which could be done doing anything but going through receipts.
But it's just a way better view of your business as a whole. Now, we'll take it one step further. Like, I know I always talk about in terms of separating your business and personal, it's more so to just get you acclimated to this is how it is. Because a lot of times, like, I don't do the personal aspect of it. Like if somebody decided they wanted to, we could incorporate it. But the majority of people, the majority of people that I deal with, I don't. There's like only a handful of people that I like see all sides, or I get glimpses of it because I either do their tax meeting or like deal with like spouses or other people, like especially in terms of when, like, let's say there's two business owners, right? Then it gets a little more technical, because it's like you want to be sure, like, are you sure that's my piece of it? Even if you're married and that's your partner, like, you want to know that, like, that it makes sense that that is your piece, and you want to do this, and this is part of the overall like the business management side. You don't always need me, but one thing that I've noticed about everybody that I typically deal with, I don't expect you to be an accountant. I don't expect you to grasp everything, but if I can feed you the little bits and pieces of information that I feel should matter in your world and nothing else, I don't expect you to have everything under control, but if I can just teach you your piece of it and make you comfortable enough to ask me the questions, to text me. I would rather you text me at some god awful hour than to tell me this like after the tax season is over. I'm like, could we not have, like, we could have probably planned better or done something. Like if some major life situation happens at some point in the year, like I would want for us to talk about it, whatever that looks like. And then furthermore, like, this is how we're going to now be able to make your business is something that, like, what is your exit strategy? Like, you may say, you know what, I'm going to do this for the next 5 years. Some people don't keep the same business that they start in. And a lot of times the people that I deal with don't only have one business. Like, it ends up being multiple businesses, or like, oh, we're going to do this over here. And then you start to play with the different things, and you can start to do things that might be also of interest to you that aren't part of your normal, like, everyday thing. You may say, you know what, I would like to do real estate too. How do we do that? Well, not always is it going to be under the same business, unless each of your businesses start to buy like the properties of which we're going to do that. But in order to make that a reality, I need to still be able to have this conversation. Like, whenever I go through this motion with people on an individual level, or a business level, my thing is, asking what your short-term goals are, because a lot of times they change, guys. I could tell you, like, maybe a few years ago, you may say, I don't care what it is. I just don't want to, like, owe everything for tax, right?
The last like 3 years, everything that I ever told you as baby stylist me, I think I'm like, I literally went the polar opposite direction. I told you how many times, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Here I am doing exactly all the things that I like was set in stone, cement, telling you I don't want to do. And now here I am, but there's definitely no way that I would have been able to get there without one, just knowing that I could, like you said, texting you at some crazy hour, but having you like put the bumpers back up for me and guide me along the way to the next like journey.
And sometimes that's all you guys need. I mean, if you really take it, I can't take credit for anything. Like, you guys all still make the business decisions. You guys still, maneuver and are the boss. Like, a lot of times I find out things after they've already happened, and I'm like, you guys. So, I get it. And I'm trying to understand the different ways that people view their business, because it's not like, it seems very matter of fact and easy for me, but that's because it's a cookie cutter for me. Like, yeah, that doesn't look right. And if it is, then they need to raise the price. And I know that, like, whenever we talk in terms of pricing, I make people uncomfortable. But I think that, just like anything else, like you said, with the supply and demand, you can ask for those prices. And a lot, like I said, a lot of times you guys are building a brand. You guys aren't seeing that a culmination of all your efforts from all these years now has built not just you guys and not just your physical assets, but it's giving you guys a wealth of knowledge and a way to be able to advise somebody. Like, you might not be able to advise them on the accounting aspect of it, but you can tell them, oh yeah, this is what you got to do. You got to do this, 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 and this. And then, you guys can have that conversation with people. And I know that those are conversations that people want to hear. You guys are leaders. Like, I mean,
top one on my list. You should call Marie.
Yeah, no, you guys are really making a lot. I don't know if you guys know that. And it's kind of funny because I know the old school, the humble beginnings, you guys, and the nitty gritty, like who's there. And I think that who you are as people also needs to be a really big thing to highlight, because it is doing the right thing. I don't think I believed that before when I was younger. It was like, I don't think I always believed in actually taking like the necessary steps in this order. It was kind of like, okay, let's do a little bit over here, then okay, then over, like, you know, it's just kind of like juggling these pieces to kind of just stay afloat. But now you guys can look back and go, okay, all the ups and downs, all the problems, all the different things that you guys would have been faced with, even through the pandemic. You guys stayed alive through the pandemic, which is also another thing. You know, not everybody made it through that. You guys could have just said, okay, like maybe this isn't it, and maybe I need to figure out something else, and then I can kind of get back to this. No, you guys stuck it through, and you guys are one of the businesses that made it through that. I mean, that's in itself a feat. And
I think
that
you mentioned though is like, it does have a lot to do with somebody's like grit, like their character, like who they are as a person. And either
it matters.
Like, take the pandemic and you could sit in the mud, or you can do a little self-reflection and see like, where do I have some corners of my life that I could have like spruced up and shined up. And I think coming back out of that like stronger with a better like attitude is one, how we both probably made it through, and two, just to crunch that number, get clear on what our goals are, and obviously having you in our corner to be able to do that. Because like you said, it's not, you don't just get to be like a crappy person and be like, oh, crappy people equal success. I'm like, that only goes so far.
And you guys have the clientele.
Marie, what you taught us over the years is that, like, because I had the 2 locations during pandemic, the one that I had in Danville for 2 years. And so like from a business standpoint, and not having really an emotional attachment to the businesses that I've built now, I mean, versus when I first started, like, oh, this is my heart and soul is into this.
Yeah.
But to close a location and still stay true to keeping one open and thinking it from a dollars and cents perspective versus someone who was like, I'm just going to shut everything down, right? So I think very instrumental in just helping to understand, like, you know, when you look at something from like, it'll still grow. I can close this location and reopen it after the pandemic, and it would, you know, and still have all the same stuff, you know. So being able to make those kinds of decisions has become easier just because of, you know, helping us along.
Yeah, no, I mean, and this is something that we can go on and on. And one of the hypotheticals that we didn't get to talk to you, but we could save it for another time. And I will, if there are any questions that you can think of that you want to ask, like, definitely, you know, let's squeeze them in. But this next thing in this next chapter for you both, it's like, okay, how can we tighten up all the ways that we make money now? Do we want to expand? Do we want to do other things? And what does that look like? So if we were to, in order for us to map out those steps, we need to have those conversations. If you said, you know, I for sure want to buy this building and this and that, then I would say, okay, then let's take it a step further and say, okay, do you know how much the building costs? Like, do you know what that looks like? And then I would say, okay, then let's look it up. So we're talking like, I would say pick one that you think that you want, like that you envision or something, so we can have something to work with. So then I would start crunching numbers for you and say, okay, in order for us to have like $1 million building, this is what it's going to be to put down at the bare minimum. We need this. So how can we get this? So then that's when we go, okay, let's look at our personal effects. And that's the part that I don't always have. Okay, if we're not going to include anything personal, then how do we make the business tangible enough and profitable enough to then say, okay, we can do that under the business now? Because for me, your business can take and claim as much of the expenses and of as much of all the burden and the real life business expenses we can take that. It's like never going to waste. And placing those numbers, I guess, is kind of the really big takeaway in being a business owner. And that's the piece that I feel like I don't know where it gets lost or how to kind of explain that and tell people that, because that's a piece. It's like, if we close these doors today, let's say you said, you know what, Maree, I don't care about this. I don't want to do it. I just don't want to do it anymore. Let's close the business down today. So what that looks like is we would take that financial statement and say, okay, if we cash out everything, if we, collect anything that's owed to you from girls, from guys, from whomever, and then pay anything that we owe, and you guys don't have a ton of liability on your businesses. So basically that's what you have. That's what you have to either close down this business. And now you can either say, what am I going to do with this? Am I going to put it in a savings account and then get a job? Am I going to plunk this whole thing down on something else that I want to now do? Whatever that looks like to you, we can map it out. And once we map it out, it becomes a little bit more of a reality, because it's like you have the steps. You know what it takes. Like and then they're in this specific order. You're not going out of order. These are the steps. Now, if your plans change and you go, okay, maybe I'm not going to make this $1 million building. How do we get into something else? We maneuver that. It might not make sense to buy a building for $1 million. What if we can rent it? And then that you guys can fill in those seats, like you said. You know what I mean? And do we have a wait list? Like, how do we know how soon that can happen?
I think I have a greater sense of urgency to want to see or be more involved now in that mapping out portion of things, because the long-term exit strategy for me is to build and then potentially sell, right? Sell this to whomever, whether I franchise it, but like even mapping it out to know what my valuation of the business is now, right? And then what do I have to do?
I have that
valuation of this going forward, So so to add on to that, like mapping out is definitely something where, because I just realized I had an aha moment, like Allie was saying, she had an aha moment about like the cost per day thing one time. I had an aha moment about 2 weeks ago. I was sitting in the Berkeley shop, the original one, where I was by myself, and I was looking at the 8 chairs, and I remembered starting off with just the 1 chair, right? And then how that all went pretty fast in the course of 11 years, that now I'm responsible for like all these barbers and their families, and they're making money. And it didn't dawn on me until that very moment when I was sitting there. I'm like, I got to make sure now that I can continue to keep this machine running. Not only that, and providing for them and my daughter and all that stuff, but like, what can I do to improve on that so that they can continue to make more money? And whoever comes on board will continue to make money. And I didn't set out to be a provider for these folks, but like, what is kind of,
but you are
involved into that. So I'm interested very much in this, kind of the mapping of where we are now and how do we move forward, and that kind of stuff.
I'm going to tell you guys, you wouldn't be given these problems if you guys weren't cut out to handle them. So I believe that in everything that I am. Like, I do think that it's no accident that I'm aligned with the people that I am aligned with. And it's no accident that everybody else is growing by leaps and bounds. That's why I was kind of so adamant about, okay, like, where do I see myself? Like, how can I do things that aren't going to be relying on me having billable time? So now I'm trying to get into all of these things, but moreover, I want to provide people with the information that I feel all this should be given in schools. Like, if they would let me in, I would do it, but I can continue to create content. Like I've even always said, like, I would be a great party, part of an event activity where I could just talk to entrepreneurs and do those random hypotheticals. I mean, and some of them are really fun. Like, I feel like that's also why I was hard to date, because I literally seek proof in everything. Like, when people say like, oh, I invested, I'm like, okay, so you invested in your friend's business. Okay, their clothing line. Okay. Did they ask for, how much did they ask for? Is it 75? Like, it's funny because I know where all these numbers come from and I can pick it apart. But if I could just take calls and say, okay, your business plan, that's not going to work, because I'll tell you all the things that I see wrong with what you just said. So go back and regroup. Like I want to do these things, and I do get a chance to look at a lot of weird situations, but oftentimes when I'm getting paid, I can't record it, or I record it and it's for them. So like, you know, I'm not able to do these, but these hypotheticals are probably the most fun. And I know that there's a lot more that we have to unpack and undo. I appreciate your time. I didn't want to make this painstaking and awful and long, but I just think that, like I said, that you guys are leaders. I feel like everybody I deal with is now in a position to master class their business, because like you have a proven track record. We're not just going over there. Like I always have a problem when somebody's like, I'm a business guru, or I'm your this, or I'm that. And it's like, okay, show me your resume. Show, like, who are all these people? Like, show me. And if you can't provide that for me, like, no, like how I want to show, I want to see the proof. Proof is in the pudding. And like I said, it's not me making any decisions. I just give information. I mean, a lot of people ask me, and I might put my 2 cents off record or off camera, not in writing, but I do think that all these things are important for us to grow, and to grow any business, no matter how you see it. And it's like the only thing that's left for us is, what are the other ways that we can incorporate to earn in this business? Because not everything can lump into that business. That's why they ask for the code. Like you can't just all of a sudden, okay, well, I sell ice cream, but I also invest in real estate in this business. They want the code. So as you start to want to partake in other businesses, you will then have more additional financial statements. So when people say like, how are they claiming everything? That's how. When you're an individual with a job, you have one financial statement. When you have a business and you have a partner, like you're married and like your partner has a job, you have 2 financial statements. You have 2 business owners. You have, well, depending, you might have 3 financial statements or 4. So that's where it starts to get bigger. And when people say the corporations don't have to do this, well, the corporations are operating everything under the sun. So yes, they're reporting everything and they're claiming everything. Like, so when people say, well, oh, I'm not going to claim this income. Now that's like the cash-based business. I hear that all the time. Okay, well, if it's a cash-based business, then, and you want to skim off the top, you're stealing from yourself, but okay, you can skim off the top. I definitely
think that is something that you also taught me too, because it's like so many people try and cut corners with that. But in order to be a big business, like you can't always hide all of those things, or you're going to stay the
I say you show it all and claim it all. Like when you, I am not claiming all that. That was cash. Like just like it's not documented. I kept it. I put it in my purse, so it didn't hit the bank account. Okay, but then so let's say you do that over the course of a year, and I don't know, on a 6-figure income, I typically, you can expect for people to go, okay, 50, 60, 70, 80,000 or so. And it's like, okay, so you skim that. I don't see it. We're not counting it. It's often secret La La Land. But tell me this. So you took away 80,000, but you still want to claim all these expenses. Do you see how that does not make sense? So if you are saying that you made 10,000, but 5,000 is in meals and entertainment, that doesn't fly to me. Like, I call bullshit. And if I could just do that for a living, if the IRS would be willing to pay me, I would probably make a killing off of commissions for me to just call bullshit on all these tax returns. And I think that's where it is. Like, people are finding ways to do these tax returns and stuff like that. And I say, here's my only thing. I will never downplay or talk bad about anybody, but just make sure that these people that you're asking to do your thing, if they cannot do it without software, ask yourself, find out what you're paying. Because if they cannot do it without a software, then they're relying on the software to give them the numbers. Everything I do, I know the numbers before I use software. So I know where it all is before we do it. I don't trust software. I've made software fix it. I've complained to banks. And when I can know the details of your business, we now can say, hey, we spend this much with you on merchant processing fees. I'm not paying that rate. I'm not paying it.
Well, I'm not going else, so like it don't matter. You can, if something happens to you, Maree, God willing, you never do. If you,
I'm leaving
your funeral with my shoebox of receipts, and I'm gonna go say my little word, see what your casket say. Like, what are we doing about these receipts?
No, I'm laughing because that's what I said. I'm leaving the blueprint. I'm not tied to anything. Like, if I can leave this for our kids and my grandkids, and it could help them, even if it helps nobody else in the world, if it could help them, have at it. I'm not attached to it. If you don't see yourself doing this, or if you don't want it, sell it. If you don't want material goods, sell it. Like, I'm not attached. I like nice things, but I'm not attached to anything. And I'm completely okay with things coming and going. But for me, it's a lot easier to make another 100,000 than to stop spending 100,000 in my eyes. Like, instead of me telling you, can you guys lower your spending? Why wouldn't we just say, okay, how can we up it? So we don't have to do that. It just is like, do I think that you should cut down on your Starbucks? No, if it keeps your sanity and you're not going to road rage people, then drink your Starbucks. And if it's $10 a day or whatever it might be, whatever those vices are, it's more of changing our mentality and our thought process about this, and being more informed maybe of the way that we're looking at it. Like, my whole thing is, you can calculate things because everybody has their like little secret spreadsheets that sometimes don't tie out. But when I start to pick it apart, I'm like, but do you see how this does not make sense? Like, even in terms of like those PPPs, when you claim the PPP loans, like for when people were getting funding, when you get it forgiven, in order for you to submit your forgiveness application, you are basically saying you're taking it on line items. So people have to understand that if you got the PPP and it was forgiven, you don't get to claim the expenses that those funds went. Do you get it? Like, so one, you got the money. So then it came in. It didn't come in as income. I treated it as a loan, right? We didn't count it as income. But in order for me to remove that loan from your books, we basically had to submit paperwork saying we paid it on we paid $2,000 to payroll, we paid $2,000 to rent, we paid $2,000 for our computer, whatever that is. When we submitted that, it's me telling them that, yes, we use the funds for this. So what happens to take it off of books, and this is the part that people weren't understanding, you don't get to claim that. So yes, you paid the payroll, you don't get to get the income and claim the expense. People were saying just delete it off my books. That's not how it works. Like, it hit your bank account. Like, it's always checks and balances. If somebody owes you 10 cents, like I'm going to know about it. Like, I'm down to the penny. And so there's a way, and you guys got to understand as a business owner, and it's going to get tighter with the 1099s, with the not just the 1099s, with like mostly with the 1099s. 1099s even go to your landlords. Anybody that you pay, all landlords now, like all across the country, I 1099 them. Anybody that you like pay $600 or more out of the checking, savings, or Venmo account, anything cash payment to one person in a calendar year. And this is what I want you to think of when you say, okay, I'm not going to 1099 them. That is fine, but be mindful of the total dollar amount. 1,000, 2,000. I mean, you're supposed to, but if somebody says no, I treat that when you say no, I'm not going to 1099, I don't care. So the way that you can expect to see that is like you saying, don't pay them from the business, Maree. I'm going to pay them out of my profits because we don't get to claim it. So it's like you giving money to somebody. That's the same way that I treat, like if you were to say, well, I'm going to invest in my friend's business, then I would say, I'm going to post it on your books a certain way. But I also, if I don't agree in whatever they sell you, then I'm going to treat it as if like, do you expect to get a return on investment in that? Or are you just being a nice friend?
Right.
I mean, because I want to claim it. Like if I don't think you're going to get it back, then I'm going to claim it somewhere else. So that's the finesse, and that's the, I guess, where I'm going with this. And I can talk about this till I'm blue in the face, and we all know that it's not work for me. I literally love what I do. I just want to give information to people. I just want people to know that this stuff matters and why it matters. If you don't own a business and you just have a few credit cards and you tell me that you want to buy a house, we still want to assemble your financial statements. It's the best possible way. Like everything is, all my ducks are in a row. Like it's the best way to stay organized. It's the best way to look at things. And then we can break it all up and run it from there, you guys. But that is about it. I don't want to lose you guys. But
again, I appreciate. Like, it was, when you said like, what would the younger version of ourselves want if we could, and I mean, I'm fortunate. I think we both are, that you crossed our paths when you did in helping out businesses.
And there's no accidents.
Yeah. When people do ask, like, and I'm sure Allie gets us a lot of inquiries on how do you start your business and how do you get into your field and how do you open up your own location and stores. And they definitely, people looking for like the cheat code, right? But if there was one, would be to say like, you got to find someone of like a Marie. You got to find yourself a Marie, because there's no way we could give you what we did on the passion and the dreams, and we did all this to get it open, but like without knowing anything about the costs and effects and the cause and effects of stuff. And without having someone like you that you can depend on and trust also. I mean, it's not just like you're somebody at H&R Block where like, okay, I'm just going to drop this off. We have actual relationship with you over the years that you've never, like good people surrounding good people. Like you've always helped us grow, and you've always been willing and open to say like, I see something that the growth here, and I see we can do these things. And I think without someone like you in their corner, like an entrepreneur, trying to be an entrepreneur, trying to build a business is,
this is the part that matters. Like this business management side, this aspect of it. And this is basically how we are able to present your business, like in its entirety. This is what it looks like. This is our profitability. Here's the trend over the course of all these years. And basically what we're left with is just the lifespan of your business over time. And the reality is we're all in it to obviously turn a profit, but more so over it, like we're good people, and we do want to share these kinds of things with other people. Like how could we make this how could we make this information help others, right? What if they don't have to go through and like, go through all the different, like, damn it, that didn't work, like that we all did, and that's kind of, like I said, that's kind of where I see my business going. Like, I don't know how I can plan to really exit. I don't know that I see myself necessarily
you're not
exiting.
Don't say that word.
Because I don't see I want to see everybody through, but also because like I said, I know that there's something at the end of this. And if we can't pass the torch to somebody else, and if we are not there, like I don't want all this stuff to be in vain. I want to share it with as many people who let me tell it to them. Yeah. And it's up to them what they want to do with the information. They can run with it, they can tweak it, they could do whatever they want. But at the end of the day, we're continuously learning and evolving, and we're going to continue to maximize all of our efforts in the way that we have been. I mean, it's only going to get better. I 1000%, both of you are in like master class level positions. Like people literally want to be you guys. I've had people reach out to me, or they like say, oh gosh, I'm so inspired. Like, oh my, or how young is Allie? Like, I hear all these different things, and it makes me happy. I'm like, I don't really think about it. And even with MJ, like I mean, I remember your little girl literally walking into my office. She's in college now. So, these are just things, these are testimonies, not just of like knowledge, the business savvy of it, but truly of your hard efforts over all these years. Why aren't we gonna do something with that?
Well,
valuable.
I appreciate you, and I always appreciate your guidance and being there.
You
like you said, those ungodly hours to be able to answer the calls to definitely guide me in the right direction.
I'm really glad, you guys. But I guess that is it. And like we can regroup and we can talk, separately, and then we can kind of figure out if it's something that we would want to do again, or maybe have specific topics, that we know that, okay, this is what we're going to cover. And it doesn't necessarily have to have you guys both on the call or not, but I thought this was a fun way to kind of pick your brain and share some info with you guys.
It was good to meet for the first time, because you've spoken highly about her, when talking about other business owners that you work with, and she's always talked about your success, Ellie, so it's good to finally put a face and name and voice together.
Thank you. Yeah, Marie,
thank you guys.
You have a great team of people that you work with, so it's always nice to be able to be along and amongst everyone. So
I care about who I work with as individuals. There was a time when I would work with anybody under the sun that would want to, but those days are long gone, and I think they're gone for you guys as well. I feel like not all business is like good business, and I choose who I want to work with, and that's a great feeling, and it's a great position to be in. So I'm very appreciative of you both, and I will get this recording for you, and we'll see what we can come up with, guys. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So
all righty. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.